Welcome back to Spider-Man Edge of Time, and by
Oh
that I
boy.
mean Peter's characterization assassination.
Like,
And now, guess what, kids? It's time for another free full section!
despite
Because
the
those are
fact,
fun.
despite the fact that we are in the present, yes, these god-awful free-fall sections still remain, and we
Remember,
have.
Jova, this is still the Alchemax building just in the past, which means that the highness is still there.
It's time for
Why
another
is this
game.
music so epic for what is essentially
That's again the problem. I like this composer and all, but some of his composition I do wonder if he just composed them blindly and then said to the studios, to Beanox, there you can use it where you feel like it, and they just slap
They
it
chose this
here.
for some
Actually,
reason.
come to think of it, Troy, you have a good point. If I recall correctly, this was the same music played when Spider-Man was dying against
Yeah, I think
Anti-Venom.
so.
And here's the thing, it made sense there, but here for a typical free-falling segment, unless something very important story-wise is happening during said free-fall segment, you're kind of ruining the magic of that music by pretty much using it ad nauseum.
Did we
Anyway,
question how tall this building was yet?
no, but we're gonna do it in the credits, Shiroi, because at the conclusion, what Miguel will say is that due to the velocity, he propulses himself towards the shaft, and correlate that to the height. The building should be tall approximately 7,000 meters, more like 3,000 more than the Mount Everest. But anyway, this particular section gets, guess what? More padding, because Miguel has to do the free fall, but he constantly gets interrupted by a shaft getting closed in the meantime. So what he has to do is to scour these mini areas to find a way to reopen it, and then launches himself. I think it happens 3 times in total.
So much padding.
And this is not helped by the constant now that Sloan, Anti-Venom, and and Doctor Octopus have been engulfed to the time stream, into the portal.
That's
Now the game doesn't really have a villain. Now it's just the two Spider-Mans just fucking around the building for a while. The strong point of Shadow Dimension was to have the chapters dedicated to the villains, one per each. And yet. Instead, it seems almost as if Beanox got the message that was a problem. They're like, no, too many villains. The game is too focused on the villains. Let's, strip the most of them, and have the few ones that are just, fuse into one at the midway point, and have the rest of the game just being about the two Spider-Man bickering at each other.
Oh.
Keep in mind, later on we will get a new villain. And it's not gonna be that pretty.
But shame on you, Tio. You're once again ruining the great surprise that Beanox are staring up for the viewers. I mean, granted, unless you've played Spider-Man 2000, in which case you'll probably know what the twist is regarding those villains getting pushed in there. But still, Tio, the surprise. I'm sure somebody cared at this point.
No, we literally got a silhouette of it. Like seriously, the only thing that I can't spoil is the name, because it technically does. It's a new creation made for this game only that will be given a name later on. It's just. Like, that's the only thing, because it's not something taken directly from the comic, but it's just a reference to an old video game. That's it.
Now, I get it. Maybe the mentality was, oh, most people haven't played Spider-Man 2000. Ignoring the fact that, the Spider-Man movie games were sort of descended from that game, but I digress still, though. So, okay, let's maybe run on the mentality that a lot of people haven't played Spider-Man 2000 and don't know what's going to happen. Or hell, even if they have played it and somehow don't know what's going to happen, the game practically spells it out still with that silhouette anyway, so...
Well, to be fair, Jova, I was actually considering how Beanox at least tries to put passion in what they do. It's just a matter of how we handle it. It's the fact of it actually makes me think more they wanted to homage the project instead of thinking that people did not play it. It's just
Fair
the
enough,
fact
yeah.
that. I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
I gotta
sure
talk about this.
Sorry, go on.
Now you literally spiral down, like, the architecture
Look at how
doesn't make...
big this is.
The architecture doesn't even make sense at this point.
And keep in mind, I think we're gonna repeat this soon enough, in the same free-falling section, mind you. But here's the thing, like, I already talked about the fact that the writer cannot be completely incompetent, and the studio, of course, has good people behind them and a good idea what to do. So it still begs the question: what happened here? It can't be just executive meddling from Activision. I get that this was released like 1 year after Shadow Mansion, so there was clear. There you go, Joe. We're repeating the same section that we had a couple of seconds ago.
Again, I just have to wonder, what do the employees who go up these floors see? Like, is there a special elevator to go through
Not
these
just
floors?
that, Miguel tells to Peter that Sloan traveled back in the 70s to build the building out of the Oscorp, sorry, not Oscorp, but out of the Daily Bugle. So it's much taller than that, but it still means that it took like decades to build this thing, because how tall it may be.
Almost to the archives. Almost won't stop these freaking tentacles.
Thank you. Please complain at each other even more. It makes you so endearing.
Also, this is also the point where the plot goes a bit schizophrenic, because we all did this fucking, chore for Miguel to go through the archives to search for information. But as soon as we will try to get them, we will need to have Peter do something else. But then, when Peter will almost be trying to do something else, something other else will start happening, and we'll have to use Miguel to do. Yeah, for example, right now, we need a voice recorder. We have a voice recorder, so we need to actually alter that. Guess what? This goes nowhere because the distraction that derails the plot happens while Peter goes through getting this.
Oh, you gotta love this. So, in all these years, apparently none of the codes have changed.
Screwing with the past. Learn from the mistakes instead of repeating them. Fine.
I can't believe Miguel has to say this to Peter. Go on, Jova, sorry.
Yeah, you gotta love this. So, Miguel needs apparently some help from Parker here, which means that... How many years into the future is 2099 from the present in this game, Tio?
From this present, approximately 90 years. 90 years, sorry.
So apparently in 90 years, the security codes will not have changed one iota.
Well, keep in mind that this is the past, so they don't really have Miguel authorization code.
Oh yes, I get that, but what Miguel's gonna ask Peter to do is, while Peter's in the future, look for the codes, remember?
Not just that, Peter is actual. Remember, when the timeline was changed, Peter did become an employee at Alchemax. So you think that he will ask Peter to do that instead?
Yeah, he could maybe ask Peter for some.
Anyway, let's try destroying instead the generator.
This isn't needlessly complicated or padding at all, now is it?
This is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
Mm-hmm.
Peter?
Hello?
Oh, I remember this one. This was a thing that was showcased in an actual demo of the game that was broadcasted to a couple of events, like cons that I actually went to around the time this game was promoted. Now Peter is trapped in a room where it's closing in. For now it's fine, you're not gonna have a time limit. But soon enough, when you enter the next room where you have to go, you will suddenly get this very unforgiving time limit, and the stakes will keep getting higher and higher until Miguel will magically find a button to fix everything.
Now, I get it in some cases, quantum causality thing, but this one's a bit iffy here. For one thing, the walls are slowly closing on him, which implies that this is directly affecting the system. The problem being is like, well...
There you go. I need to get into there.
Mm-hmm. It's safe to...
Let's just hope it's not for the developers.
Well, considering what Beanox had to go through regarding Spider-Man, wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, do we have actual official statement? I can't imagine an official statement because Activision has still them on the payroll. But keep in mind, I can't imagine something that happened. But I don't know if we ever had insiders' information about that.
Yeah, it's one of Activision's calling cards with franchises like this, and considering, the state...
I can't imagine... Sorry, go on, sorry.
Okay, it could be a mix of Beanox's varying competence with Spider-Man games, but I would maybe chalk it up to crunch time, because Beanox, like you said, have been very passionate about stuff, and while granted that a lot of their games have had issues here and there, it does seem to suggest that it's more a bout of executive meddling than their actual incompetence or them just not having enough time.
Honestly, considering that now thanks to CTR Nitro Fuel, they seem to have regained some positivity among the fans. I know that the whole microtransaction thingy that happened later and blah blah blah. But I want to chalk that up to Activision and not Binox itself.
Oh, I actually was not going to mention the microtransactions. I was going to mention how because that game has more of a focus on content than actually patching up the bugs in physics could occasionally and a lot of times be an issue with Nitro Fueled. Also, the online was terrible.
Well,
Granted. I think I would also chalk that up to Activision ordering them to focus more on creating new content before focusing on actually fixing the game.
Jesus, so many days. Oh, for fuck's sake.
But again, here's the issue with this, though. So quantum causality suggests that the walls will slowly close on Peter. Except, if this were directly affecting time, shouldn't it mean that, it just crushes him immediately because it appears, or, I don't know, warps out here and there? It's inconsistent, because if you recall, there have been other segments where the effects have just been instant. But here, for convenience sake, they're slow, and it doesn't make a lick of sense.
There we go.
And that somehow fixes that, I guess.
And it transforms into a shaft? How does that even work?
See, now that transformation was instant. Oh, conveniently drops him where he needs to be.
Rhino in July, you.
Oh, Hera, they have enough security in here to keep out an army of Spider-Man. Any ideas?
Just don't show that to the Jackal.
I'm trying something here.
Alright, from at least for a good chunk of time from now on, and Miguel will actually be in control of the construction plan of the Alchemax building, meaning that if Peter finds himself in a situation where he cannot go through, he will gently, of course, ask Miguel to fix that, and find an alternate way to get to the next location. On paper, this is actually nice, because it finally shows some progress, the fact that these two Spider-Mans are actively now working together, and influencing the time in a more intelligent manner.
Yeah.
But it doesn't last for long, and it's just there to solve automatically some death trap situations where otherwise you don't really have the skills to pull through.
This is admittedly one of those cases where if you think about something more, the concept really does fall apart. Again, quantum causality is an interesting topic. I think an issue is that the 90-year gap really does make you consider, really, they didn't change this or fix this up for all those years, it just remained broken? How has this building not been shut down for healthy violations?
And then at some point instead, it comes to a point where what Miguel is influencing by saying, oh no, we do need, is basically saying that they need a new air vent in this place where it technically doesn't need to be, and they built it with no questions asked,
Yeah.
Like just now.
Yeah, again, it's... Okay, yes. Comic books can be weird, but there's a rule of thumb. Suspension of disbelief does allow interesting stuff to happen, but it doesn't mean that you throw all logical sense out the window. Otherwise, you just have nonsense.
This is better represented by the entire tagline of the conception of Superman. You will believe that a man can fly, Unless
the Superman 4.
I'm trying to make a point. But that's the thing. That phrase alone is meant to tell you how you should set up your suspension of disbelief. You create a universe where ludicrous things like a man that is able to fly can happen, because in universe it's an alien that gets powered by our sun, and gains powers that will be magical to our worldly, Sorry, Dweebs.
And yet people still draw the line at him turning the Earth backward in time. In the same movie, even.
Well, Dweebs, that's first of all, that was a movie. Second, there's also this other fact, after the Silver Age was over, the comic book industry wanted to create stories where they would manage to make the rules more grounded, in a sense of still giving the characters their abilities that everyone know and loved, but making sure the power creep was not completely unbalanced, because Superman in the Silver Age was able to do whatever the fuck he wanted every single day.
He literally juggled planets once.
Literally. One of his mortal enemies is called Solaris, the Tyrant Sun. So basically they wanted to, issue a balance patch. Superman restarting the world by rotating around on the planet does make sense because it is in his capabilities. It's just that you will see this as an easy way out that a competent writer will manage to find a way to go around it. Keep in mind, for the standard of the live-action Superman movies of old, it's still way better to what happened, instead of having a magical kryptonite crystal that heals him from whatever Nuclear Man did to him in Superman 4, for example, It's not really much a matter of suspension of disbelief there. It's just a matter of, they decide to take this solution.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that is from a comic book fan perspective. Then there's just the movie crowd, which, gotta be honest, in all these years, I still have to properly understand how do they work, because just like the citizen in the Marvel universe, they seem to have a schizophrenic mind of their own in what they love and what they don't.
Movie crowds are an interesting case here and there. Now, I won't say that they always act entitled, because that wouldn't be fair, but it does seem like sometimes they expect for some things to go their ways more than comic book fans' way, without regarding the fact that these are still comic book movies. A comic book movie should not disregard how a comic book fan feels entirely. Again,
sorry, ignoring you. Sorry, Joe, I wasn't meant to you, but the fact that I love how the game spawns like all these enemies and say, you gotta fight them, and then Spider can just, nope. And noping the fuck out of here.
Thank God the game remembers you can web sling. But yeah, I think part of the reason some movie comic book fans act that way sort of has to do with the stigma that started off in the early 2000s. Where it suddenly became cool for comic book movies to mock the comics that they came from. Or for them to go, no, we wouldn't do that. That's just stupid.
We're so much better than that.
Which is kind of ironic, seeing as how nowadays that's seen more... Nowadays, that tactic is seen more of as a stigma, but there still is unfortunately a bit of a holdover from it. Not however, yes, sometimes there are some movies that do their comic book plots better, but then sometimes do them worse, mind you. Anyway, back to this...
It can even work doubly when they flat out completely ignore... or at the very least they give the movie to someone who has never even heard of the superhero alive. Like, I'm still...
Galactus is a cloud, anyone?
Hold on.
Go on.
Well, I'm still very, very doubtful that the people who wrote the 1970s Captain America duology have even know anything about Captain America.
Oh God.
Other than he wears the American flag-ish costume.
And there's a shield that he throws. Honestly, even that, because he throws a shield like once in those movies, and that's it.
The second movie too.
Yeah.
Captain America doesn't throw a shield one single time in the first movie.
So I guess in a sense the 90s Captain America movie is technically better. If anything, because Captain...
Yeah, but we've had the 2011 movie since then.
Jova, I'm gonna here's to simplify one of the many bigger problems of the 90s Captain America movie. They made the rest call Italian.
Not just well, that's also a problem. I agree, but that's the thing, Jova. It depends on your perspective. Like in the 70s movie, they turned Steve into a lazy dipshit. In the 90s movie, they turned him into a flat-out asshole.
Why? Wait, hold on. Are you saying that you didn't like seeing him behead a woman with his shield?
Oh God.
Not even just that. Like the way he treats the people, where he tells, could you stop the car for a moment? Like, I think I'm gonna be sick, and then he abandons those people. Like.
Wait. I thought that was one of the 70s movies.
No, that's the 90s one.
God, the 90s one.
They're both shit. So it's not like it. That's the thing. Twibs. Let me put it this way: in the 1970s Captain America movies, Steve is not was not a soldier from the 1940s U.S. Army. No. He's an ex-Marine who just wants to relax and take life easy. Because that's what Steve Rogers is, right? I mean, at least the 90s Captain America movie bothered to make him a guy from the 40s, so there's that, I guess.
One of the actually old Marvel movies of old that I actually haven't seen yet instead is, I think it's one of the 70s, the Doctor Strange one. I know that there is it, and the only thing that I heard about it is very sexual oriented, not in a sense that it has a blatant porn, but is almost close to be softcore. So I'm actually really curious to check it out.
So it sounds like one of the best Marvel movies we got from olden days is one that didn't even get officially released.
The 90s Roger Corman Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that is still to this day the best Fantastic Four movie we've got.
And that's sad, considering the only good thing about that movie, to be honest to me, are the costume design. Because that is probably the best Doctor Doom has ever looked.
Not only that, but Doctor
he
Doom
looks like
actually,
a Power Rangers villain in the movie.
Not only that, but Doctor Doom actually was in character. Like, they remembered how his character works, thank Christ. Also, Johnny wasn't an asshole, so that helped. Hell, I even could buy the romance between Sue and Mr. Fantastic. So yeah,
Johnny.
Sir, yes.
To be fair, Johnny is supposed to have at least some kind of a cocky attitude to him anyway.
Because Danny is the Human Torch, so he's constantly on fire.
Okay. Here's the thing.
Hot-headed, sorry.
First of all, he's grown out of that since. But okay, let's argue he's supposed to act like an asshole. I'm sorry, but the level to which he is an a-hole in the Tim Story films is just beyond unforgivable.
I agree with you there. Like, obviously, when I say cocky attitude, but that doesn't necessarily mean assholishness. Like, there's a good writer can manage to balance the two extremes. The problem is the people who made the Tim Story movies didn't.
Alright, we're about to get Peter. Oh, by the way, the enemies completely evaporated, despite the fact they were still plentiful. Anyway, let's have Peter check the archives and see what happens.
Oh boy, are you ready for the writing to completely crap itself? Because
Okay, I'm here. So how do I access it? Enter my password. Lila.
Don't you mean Lyle Lulelo?
You got any other ideas? Let me think.
considering the plot twist, I'm surprised that the password...
Oh, that was weird. I wonder what that could mean.
Weird. Okay, let's go over the starter procedures. Slow down, Parker. It's not that simple. Did you fire up the quark enhancers?
Technobabble.
No, you just uncouple the Heisenberg compensators.
Of course, which will allow us to turn air into solid matter.
Oh no.
It's Mary Jane.
Oh, great. Now to pair things more, let's have Mary Jane in danger out of fucking nowhere.
Was unclear. Fine. I'm the nosy Parker. But
Is that okay? Between the Raimi movies and now this, does Mary Jane being kidnapped a common thing in the comics?
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Look, to be fair, her getting kidnapped is something outside of her control. She does not have powers, so she does tend to be a target, being a loved one. However, here's how
I'm not
let
sure.
me finish.
Sorry.
What is different, though, is how she handles being kidnapped. Like, let me put it like this.
Yeah.
Mary Jane does not take crap easily in the comics. Hell, she's even taken down some villains every now and then. Even recently, she took down a albeit weaker version of it, but still bout of the Sinister Six. There's a lot of context behind that.
And well, she tried to help out in Spider-Man 2, but it didn't.
Like, I don't know how like it's not a tasteful thing, but I'm about to say.
Sorry.
But by the way, don't worry, this is reserved only for later anyway. No, but I don't think it's a very tasteful thing what I'm about to say. But Gwen Stacy, at the unfortunate fact that instead was just allowed to die instead of being kidnapped 1,000 times. And keep in mind, she's one of the character that's used to represent the woman in refrigerator case, and for a good reason.
Now, okay, Gwen Stacy actually was used to good effect, mind you. Yeah, it was.
Well,
still...
that's the thing, Jova. It's still, remember, her death is literally what ended the Silver Age. It is that significant. And yeah, it is a good argument about the fact that, the woman in the
Oh
comic
God, Mary, what have you done to yourself?
I
for so many
wonder.
decades.
The plastic surgery got her badly. But yeah, again, yeah. You could argue Mary Jane at least was even trying in the Raimi-verse. Here, though, she's terrible. And mind you, I feel that they actually did Mary Jane some justice in Web of Shadows. Hell, she wielded a flipping shotgun in the Apocalypse for that game.
Still need to get a copy of that, by the way.
I guess, Jova, we have to give at least credit that Mary Jane still looks better here than she does in the 2002 game that I did.
Wow, I mean, goody for them. They managed to look better than a 2002 game. Although there is that funny thing where if you play as her,
I do wonder. No, I'm sorry.
There's that funny thing where if you play as her, yes, you can play as Mary Jane in that game. You'll have a scene where she kisses herself at the end of that cutscene. Mind you, it's still Peter's voice.
Change anyway.
So. It's like using the Athena costume in God of War 2. She still has Kratos' grunt, which gives some hilarity, and she can perform the sex minigame.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying, Pedro?
Hold on, Jova was saying something.
You know what could have helped this game, Tio? If they really had to constantly change segments, why not have included more Spider-Men? Like, again...
like the other two from Shattered Dimension.
Like, again, okay, yeah, with 2 Spider-Men, the padding gets even worse. Also, how did you get up there that quickly?
I'm Mary Jane, how do I hear?
Her eyes, like, seriously.
Yeah.
They move so unnaturally.
They really do, it's creepy.
I do wonder how she did in the Wii version. Keep in mind, I know that potentially different render and all, it's still to be lower poly in terms of the.
It's sad that it may be a case where the lowy poly version looks better, but anyway.
Anyway, go on, Pedro.
Yeah, okay. There's a here's the thing. I don't even need to bring up. Hold on.
Yeah, don't worry, it's still Peter bitching about Miguel because he's not saving Mary Jane fast enough.
So Peter, let me get this straight. You'll abandon the entire timeline if Mary Jane is safe, but no, the minute she's in danger, no. Now you gotta go back to it.
So yeah, you were saying, Pedro?
Dwebs, I don't even need to bring up any kind of stuff from Spectacular Spider-Man or anything like that to talk about problems with I may have with certain interpretations of Mary Jane. I can even bring up the original comics where she premiered, that was written by Stan Lee, because she was because Stan originally created already as an attempt to make a more proactive female character. Like for example, literally the first line she says is because she set up for a blind date with Peter. And when Peter sees her for the first time, she says, what is her most iconic line? Face it, Tiger, you just won the jackpot. So from the very beginning, Stanley intended for Mary Jane to be a much more personality-driven female character that was much more than just a damsel in distress. Yeah, she could still get kidnapped and be saved by Peter, like Jova said earlier.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think what Paige
against supervillains, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like,
yeah.
I guess what you wanted to say that she was no Lois Lane.
Well, okay. Even Lois Lane could be proactive with that sort of stuff.
Jova later, because Golden and Silver Age Lois Lane is so terrible.
Golden Age Lois Lane is terrible.
Remember the time where she got a machine that turned her into an African American?
The 90s,
that happened.
The 90s were very kind to her, though. Like, I really liked her in the in the Superman animated series.
Oh, especially.
And Terry Hatcher played her really well in Lois and Clark. So,
I actually don't remember how she is in Smallville, to be honest.
God.
Somebody say...
She was.
I know she returns for the Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover, for the Arrowverse, so I'm actually excited to actually check that out.
Hey, what's the current consensus on that crossover anyway?
Honestly, it's probably the best thing that has happened to a DC crossover that was not in the movies. Like, it is probably the Justice League movie we should have got.
That said, though, is the stigma with Batgirl still a thing?
Batwoman, you mean? I don't know.
Batwoman, yeah.
I know that by the time of his recording, there's a bit of a controversy because now the actress has stepped down, and of course a lot of people have, gone out and said, "Oh, you basically harassed her out." But since I actually don't know the story for now, I'm actually, stepping quietly out and see what's gonna happen.
If I recall correctly, I heard we had to do more scheduling conflicts. But yeah, that's the thing though with Batwoman though. From what I've heard, a lot of people weren't buying that she was gonna be supposedly a designated hero of sorts for Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I can tell you this, Jova. I didn't like the trailer at all, because it was so in your face.
What,
and
you mean
everything.
the one that literally went, "I'm a woman"?
Not just that, when she see the bat suit and Alfred tells her that it was designed for Mr. Bruce Wayne, and she's like, "It would fit for a woman," and then smash cut.
And how she goes about, how it'll be her legacy, despite the fact that she's
again, to be fair, I haven't seen the series afterwards, so I don't know how she's properly in action. I actually seen instead the Supergirl Arrowverse TV series, and at least the season 1 and 2 were not of my liking, to be honest.
Oh, I actually like the Supergirl stuff, but I'll admit it's not for everyone. But with Batwoman, I've heard mixed reactions, to put it nicely.
Honestly, at the end of the day, it seems that from the Arrowverse, the only two series that managed to, stay consistently, solid, even with their ups and downs, were the two main ones, Arrow and The Flash.
Oh, yeah.
Like Terry was saying, the problem with Golden Age Lois Lane is that, they kind of try to have her go, "Oh, I'm not going to wait for anything, I'm just going to get my story and shit." So they kind of try to have her have some agency. The problem is, she's always a complete moron about how she deals with things, and as a result, Superman has less...
Oh, shit.
Good God, Mary, come on.
And now Mary Jane's going to start screaming her lungs out. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like that.
While Miguel will have to desperately do a freefall section to catch a moving elevator. Thank fuck that the Alchemax building is this tall, so we can actually rescue her in time.
And defy gravity.
Unfortunately...
Well, to be fair, we are going down, so...
Yeah, we're literally going down, so that technically...
But seriously, this is also probably the worst pre-fall section in the entire game, because you're actually urged to go faster for this, but there's so much shit in your way.
Not only that, but this is where the game decides to go all the end of the world from Sonic 06 and have stuff that can damage you appear randomly, like the goddamn portals in that level. But yeah,
Alright, first step.
Carrying a Spider-Man.
When it comes to Mary Jane in this game, though, unlike Mary Jane in the comics, currently anyway, or hell, even Mary Jane in Spider-Man 2, this Mary Jane literally does nothing but scream and get in trouble, which, again, mind you, this game came out after Web of Shadows, so kind of an insult compared to the Mary Jane who literally was fighting off symbiotes with a flipping shotgun.
Well, Jervis, she was doing that throughout the whole trilogy. I think the only time where her help was actually kind of sort of useful was when she dropped a bloody cinder block on Venom in Spider-Man 3.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, though. She was actually at least trying, and she wasn't just screaming. And she wasn't just screaming her lungs out in the Raimi trilogy. Whereas again, this Mary Jane is the most useless Mary Jane ever. Like, okay.
I would argue that the main problem wasn't so much the fact that she was, quote unquote useless, as you put it. I would argue the main problem is her personality. She's not written like Mary Jane. Like, yes, sometimes I have her say "Go get him, Tiger" or something like that, but it doesn't quite work because the movie didn't really give her a personality that fits those iconic lines.
Does Mary Jane in the comics abandon the one that she's going to marry just by sending by writing a letter?
Don't get me started because I would be able to stop. Save it for the commentary of that movie. Otherwise I'll go nuts.
Yeah, we're actually.
No, but change this subject quickly before.
Actually, let me do it because we're actually very close to rescue her anyway. But yeah, again, you need also to do this 3 times and still survive. You kind of have to do this pretty much in a row to actually save Mary Jane. There we go. Okay. And now, hold on. Now,
we need to go back outside for this cutscene.
and now we're actually probably gonna get probably the best part of the writing of the game. Basically, Peter David taking a huge jab at One More Day.
Thanks. Thank you. For real, this...
There you go, Jackpot Tiger.
No problem, Peter. Come on, Regiment. Let's get you out of here now.
You're talking to Peter right now? You got some sort of cell phone?
Yes.
Sell what?
Miguel, you are from 2099. You don't know what cell phones are. Well, to be fair, later on he will say he doesn't know what toasters are. So
I guess the idea is that the
here
future
we
got
go.
rid of. Oh.
You're as brave and unselfish as...
if you knew, sweetie, that guy was just selling your life out in the end of the previous part.
Or
I
rather,
don't. She doesn't need to know that.
Thanks again, Miguel. Enough with the thanks. You ready? Come home? You bet.
Oh, now, and here's your next plot twist: 2099 Black Cat with a very sexy outfit to go through.
I guess it's that time where she chooses to go with the more sexy over practical outfits. Then again, I guess to be fair,
They gave me an anti-aging drug.
whoa, so you are literally the same Black Cat.
Spider sense going nuts.
Shit.
Whoa, you have powers now. Great.
So, I know what you're thinking. Oh, finally we have a sort of a villain now. She lasts for, like, what, 40 minutes, an hour tops of the entire game. She has a very pitiful excuse to be here with an anti-aging drug that is only established to, you know, give you an hint on the later final villain of the game, you know. And she doesn't last her welcome, you know. It's the only good thing about this is that you go through rooms like this one that have the bosses from Shattered Dimensions in them.
Again, you know, it's a shame because Peter David is one of the very good writers, honestly. Hell, he was that guy who showed Bill Jemas a thing or two during that You Decide competition.
Yeah, but, you know, like, seriously, again I have to ask what happened here, seriously. But anyway, the fight against Black Cat is a piece easy, because you simply need to dodge your attack, wait for the opening, and strike, you know, textbook definition. The only real bitch moment is where she starts throwing shit at you, because it's a large range, so it covers a large range, so it's tricky to dodge.
I should mention that any drama that is supposed to be had here regarding you fighting Black Cat is kind of undermined by the fact that it's Black Cat. Like Catwoman, she kind of has that stupid, hey, should we make the femme fatale who the hero clearly has the hots for good, or just sticking them around sort of shtick here. Thankfully, they seem to be calming that down with Catwoman and Bruce Wayne over in the DC comics. And, you know, with Black Cat, she obviously had to at some point. Of course, there was that stigma where they made her a villain after Spider-Rock kind of brutalized her.
And now close up. Because you need books for this section, and these are so annoying. Also, Miguel, where did you put Mary Jane? Miguel? Like, it's heavily implied that just put her to safety because the elevator was going down, so he like put her at the basement floor, you know, the first floor and everything. But the game doesn't tell you.
I would hope he put her on the ground floor, considering how tall that building is. Anyway, these clones of Black Cat, for some reason, have all weird white outfits now.
And you know, color cyanides. I mean, it's a good contrast to be seen, but it's just. Oh, here we go. All right, it's time for the reveal of the main villain.
I love how you can literally just ignore the Black Cat clones like that.
All right. Off screen, I did ask to the others who it was gonna be, and Shiri guessed it right a second before Pedro. So, who do we have? The real CEO of Alchemax, the mastermind behind everything, the person superior to Sloan as well. It's not Jameson, instead is... Through the engine we just established, an old Peter Parker.
Yeah.
It was kind of obvious, honestly.
This is lame.
I'll admit, the first time I played this game, I actually kind of guessed it myself.
I thought it was Alistair's might. I hoped it was Alistair's might because the Alchemax thing, everything that was going on had his fingerprints on it, but nope. It's just a Peter Parker with an anti-aging drug that just has the excuse of having the ultimate quantum causality. Saving Peter's life changed the future so he becomes evil and shit.
This does not make any flipping
Okay.
sense.
Well, Tail, you know what they say. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Okay.
That's the problem. This is could be an actual interesting plot point if the story was completely built around it, but this gets thrown to you right at the end of the second act, pretty much.
And not only this, but consider this. Quantum causality should ruin this. Like, we've established that quantum causality will literally end up mucking stuff up the minute that something gets tampered with. Peter is technically from the past, so he has to become this future Peter Parker. But doesn't him finding about this, wouldn't that make him want to set out on the journey of not wanting to become this Peter Parker? And remember, the game has established that quantum causality is a thing. By this
And it
logic,
happens instantaneously, but this entire thing gives a goddamn paradox.
yeah,
And just like Johnny said in his review of Sonic 06, where this shit happens, time travel is bullshit.
like, seriously though, by all logic, this evil Peter Parker should disappear and the plot should be won. Technically.
Again, I have to stress out. I normally can get behind the time travel plots, even when sometimes the rule of end don't make sense. But I get to admit that they're so easy to fuck up, like here or Final Fantasy 13 too. But whatever, this part was already too long.
Let me just
see you
sum
for
it
the
up.
next one
Oh, go on.
to continue Miguel and Peter having to mass guess who the mysterious octopus-like figure from the portal is.
Oh yeah, that's still a thing.
See ya.
See ya.
So, yeah.